So when we look at companies that we want to invest in, there are several elements we try to focus on. For me, what excites me are the things that are new. I believe there is a unique personality combinations of founders that when I see it, I feel I'm more comfortable investing. Definitely, when you look at the landscape of Saudi Arabia and all the sectors that are growing, tech is definitely one of the ones that have boomed in the past couple of years. A lot of government focus is there. Many ministries have different initiatives focused on those. All of them have their own innovation centers that are helping these tech startups. My passion is entrepreneurship. I love helping startups. I love helping people build their company and grow. And I wake up every day thinking what else I can do. And maybe from all the things you mentioned, I've been involved in different sectors and the ecosystem that helps add value to the entrepreneurship ecosystem.
Welcome to Success Saudi, a podcast featuring leaders and entrepreneurs in Saudi Arabia. Our aim is to provide you with local tips and wisdom to help you on your own journey to success. My name is Maria Kamedi, and I'm here today with Hussein Attar. Hussein is the CEO of TechInvestCom, a private equity and venture capital investment firm that was established with 1 billion SAR to invest in regional early-stage tech startups. Prior to that, he co-founded Sawerly, a leading photographer booking platform that was considered one of the top 50 Arab startups by Forbes Middle East in 2015. He's also a board member of the Venture Capital and Private Equity Association. Lastly, he's a member of the National Committee for Entrepreneurship under the Federation of Saudi Chambers. Hussein received both his Bachelor's of Computer Science and Master's in Management Engineering from the University of Waterloo. He recently graduated from ESAID, part of the first cohort of MISC 2030 leaders. Hussein, thank you so much for making the time to be with us this morning. Can we start off by talking about how your career journey began?
Sure thing. First, thank you so much for hosting me here. So my career actually started as I graduated from University of Waterloo, as you mentioned, and I right away came back to a family organization where my father decided to retire and give me the keys to running the business right away. And this was a bit of a shock to me, but again, I felt prepared given all the things I learned in my education and the things that I was part of the organization from before, being in my internship opportunities, that I really learned about the details of the business. So when I came back, I was given a bunch of challenges, let's say, given the organization and where it was and how it was built over the years. Any family business, if you ask other people in the industry, they will tell you that there are some legacies there, and how you really approach these is your key to success.
What do you mean by that?
Challenges in terms of the culture that was built and how your approach to it would be. How you'll break what you feel might be negative energy or toxic culture, and what you believe should be the future of that organization. And I try to play a good balance between that, hearing from the people who were there and trying to bring in new blood and seeing what's my vision that I want to build for the company. Continuing in the career journey itself, I decided at that time Saudi Arabia was doing a bit of a change. We started to hear something about entrepreneurship and building our company and tech startups. That was a tone that wasn't yet known yet in Saudi Arabia. So I was curious, and there was a contest that was happening in Saudi at that time called Startup Week in Jeddah. It was a hackathon. Again, what's a hackathon? It was still new terminology for us. Come in the weekend, think of an idea, take 3 days to build it. Sounded very interesting. Why not? I applied, I joined, and although I pitched an idea that I thought it was a very needed problem. Again, my family was going through this. It was about recruitment of housemaids and drivers and really being able to select and having the right technology solution behind making the best connections between them. Many people liked it, but told me there might be some regulation problems there. So I understood that part, but again, I heard other people doing an idea, and I joined their company, their idea. It was a platform to book photographers.
So at this hackathon, someone else was presenting a different idea, and after the hackathon, you ended up joining them to actually build.
During the hackathon, we joined them.
Oh, okay.
And both of us maybe narrowed the idea. It wasn't that. It was more about there was a problem there that had to do with advertisement, photographers, production, locations, and other things. And we narrowed the idea during the 3 days and actually created a whole presentation with a minimum MVP, which is a minimal viable product, and presented it. And we saw a lot of people really loving the idea itself because many of them apparently faced it, whether it was for finding photographers for their weddings or for events or for products. And we noticed, okay, this is a bit of a needed product. There was a chaotic industry there. And it's something that's required in a weekly, daily basis for some people in different organizations. And the business sense made a great sense for us. Although we didn't win the hackathon, that support and people encouraging it for us to look it through, decided for us to meet afterwards. We actually started to say, okay, we want to do this. How can we do this? We started to look at our how to create a company and everything. And then at that time, the first accelerator was built in Saudi Arabia. It was called Flat 6 Labs, and it was run by IKEA and Ghassan Suleiman. They were the first who got an accelerator idea. Accelerators are companies that help bring startups from ideation into a company. This fit exactly where we want.
What year is this?
This was around 2013.
Okay.
Yes. And at that time, we applied, and there was a screening process. They looked at our idea, they looked at what we wanted to do, and they loved us. We were right away one of the first selected to the cohort. We were given some seed funding. And again, I'd like to give some context there. At 2013, talking about tech startups and what's the average ticket size for a seed funding and how much was very, way different from what's happening now. But again, we were ones that were learning and they were learning with us so that we can build the ecosystem. We got the funding, we started to build the product, and we actually started to pitch at different startup conferences for these startup contests. It was called ArabNet. ArabNet was the tech conference happening at that time. All the tech startups that were starting all went there, presented there. All the organizations that wanted to show that they were doing innovation were part of the ones sponsoring it. So it felt like something fitting for us. And we pitched our idea, and we were chosen as the best idea at that time. And that was still in the first part where it was still an ideation. We got that prize. We actually helped fund ourselves with it. We pitched to the first angel investment network happening in Saudi called Uqal. Uqal was a group of angel investors who would gather together, and all of them were they weren't in tech yet. They were trying to get into technology. They were all previously in real estate or industries that were very, very well established, but they were all in seeing what's happening in Silicon Valley, and they wanted to invest in the latest ideas here, which is a great initiative that started by a person called Faisal Rashid. And it was very active in terms of the meetups. And we were able to convince one of the angel investors to invest in with us. And that was a big, let's say, excitement for everyone in our cohort. Oh, you're the ones who were chosen. You got funding. How does it work? And we had to teach people what's the process that we did, how did we work on it, and how we actually were able to raise that funding. At the same time, we went back to ArabNet for the next year, but this time applied for the startup track, and were chosen as one of the best tech startups at that time.
Where is ArabNet?
ArabNet, unfortunately, given to the years that it operated, I think it disappeared with all the other conferences that were happening.
But where was it?
Where was it based?
Yeah. Was it in Saudi?
In Saudi, yes.
Oh,
in Riyadh, yeah.
So when you entered the hackathon, were you still running your father's company?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And did you go into it thinking like, I'm gonna find my next idea, adventure, and project?
Not yet.
No.
At that term, still, I wasn't sure yet, is it the thing I'm going to go through with? So I had to be balancing between running that company and also running the startup. But I was starting to put the right fundamentals in that company to make sure that I can put someone who can lead and continue what I've built while really focusing on the startup. Because when you build a startup, you really have to be dedicated. You have to put your focus, your energy, your dedication to building it in the right way. So at the time of the accelerator, by the end of it, I was starting to just do that to make sure it's in the right pace.
Okay, and what kind of like time frame are we talking about, from the hackathon to the Flat Labs to ArabNet and then getting the angel investor? Like, how much time is?
So it was around the 2 years and a half. That's where we went in 6 months. We had to create the idea. That the acceleration part was 6 months. By the end of the acceleration, we were already talking with the angel investor. A couple of months after that, we raised the funding. We were chosen one of the top companies by Forbes Middle East as one of the rising tech startups. Everything was very exciting. But again, I like to bring people back to that time of Saudi Arabia where venture capital investments were a bit limited. There were maybe 3-4 funds, and their focus of investments did not align with what we wanted to do. So angel investments, as many people know, gives you a bit of runway, but in the end, you have to raise a good amount of capital to really grow and scale and have enough for marketing expenses and everything. Although the company was already serving many people in Saudi Arabia, and it was the leading platform for finding photographers, and it became a brand name, the funding started to run out. And at that time, me and my co-founder were going with different ideas of how we can really sustain this, how we can manage running the company, although the funding is running out. So we have to decrease employees. We had to go through the hard conversations, let's say. And that's the reality of many startups. If the funding is running out, what can you do? Is it continuing? When do you stop? When do you think you have to adjust? When can you pivot? We tried pivoting in different areas where we think money would come more, it will help give cash flow to the company. We focused on B2B instead of B2C. That gave us a bit of funding, but again, wasn't enough to run the company. And these, I think, the lessons that many founders go, especially first-time founders, they learn the hard way. And especially at that time, there wasn't many mentors that have went through tech startups and building. So even the success stories that we wanted to hear weren't there yet here at that timeline. However, at that time, I was approached by a organization called Tech Investcom. I've never heard of them before, but they gave me their context. They told me we are an investment firm. We started in 2005 with 1 billion riyals to invest in technology. And I was surprised, like I thought I knew the people in the organization, in the ecosystem, but they played more in the private equity side, more than venture capital. So they focus on established businesses, but in technology. So it was telecom solutions, fiber. Those were the emerging technologies at that time. And they said, we want to establish a venture capital arm. And given what you went through and the people you know and the ecosystem that you built, we'd like you to join us. And it was a bit surprise to me because all my mind was, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a founder, I'm someone who builds. Going on the investment side wasn't something I've ever considered as a career path. But once after I discussed with the CEO at that time, and after talking with some different friends, I decided to take the leap of faith, and I went to the dark side, as they might say. Dark side.
It's always the dark side.
Dark side. Again, the sharks, the people who invest, and but again, that's what people say. I believe it differently. We are the people who would enable tech startups. But again, that was the perception at that time. And it was, to my surprise, the best decision I might have made, because I felt myself inspired back again, because instead of building my own company, I helped other people build their own by giving them the funding that they need to help see it through. And I was involved. I would come in as a board member or as a participant as an investor to help give the right advice, help them grow. And I used what I went through as the lessons learned to help them build it in the right way. So I joined Tech Investcom as an investment manager. I ran their venture capital arm. we invested into companies like Foodex, Tamara, Merit Incentives, and many of the regional tech startups that were in the mature stages. It focused on MENA-based tech startups that are doing Series A and B.
Okay, and when is this that you joined?
2019.
And what did you do with your startup at this point? Did you keep it going?
At this point, we thought we could. So again, the startup is like a baby to many founders. And when's the right time to let it go? I think we were already knowing that, okay, it's not sustaining. We can't keep doing self-funding. And you can't really raise funding for a company that you are not running as a dedicated founder anymore. So I think the conversations started to happen where, okay, we have to start closing the company, and we went through that process.
So what were the major expenses that you couldn't keep funding as, a platform? It was to connect photographers and videographers with people or companies who wanted to hire them,
Yes.
right? So what was the
So you have
biggest expense?
the employee salaries, the hosting, the marketing expense. These are things that you have to do to maintain a company. If you don't do marketing, there's not much inflow that's coming. If you don't do hosting, there's no platform to do it. And you have to keep updating your apps to be maintained with the compliance with the requirements at that time. So it was a hectic cost that I think we decided, you know what,
Okay.
I think we have to make that hard decision at that time.
So it wasn't really an option to just kind of scale it back and keep it going. Okay, interesting.
And then after 2 years of running Tech Investcom as an investment manager, I think I brought in the entrepreneurship spirit in VC, which might be a different pace that they're used to. Where I started to see a deal flow management system to help us look at all the deals. We started to be able to maintain automation in replying to several of the tech startups, creating better reporting to see the performance of our company. And that might have spoken well with our board members at that time. And they decided to make me CEO of the company. So 2 years in, I became CEO of Tech Investcom, running the private equity and venture capital. It was an exciting journey. That's just to complete the journey part. So now I'm the CEO of the company.
Yeah, it sounds very exciting. And do you feel like this is a good fit for you now?
Definitely. Because again, my passion is entrepreneurship. I love helping startups. I love helping people build their company and grow. And I wake up every day thinking what else I can do. And maybe from all the things you mentioned, I've been involved in different sectors in the ecosystem that helps add value to the entrepreneurship ecosystem.
Well, so from my own observations and what I've heard, I mean, for you, it extends far beyond just a job. I mean, you've created your own website with resources to help other entrepreneurs. And when I knew that I was going to interview you, I messaged Joel Huffman. I've interviewed him of Arabius. He has essentially a tech startup. And I said, I'm interviewing Hussein. Like, is there any questions you want me to ask him? And he said, Hussein's awesome. He's one of my favorite people. He's so brilliant and generous, giving his time to help other startups. He's like, I actually just asked him a couple questions I had this past week, so I don't have any right now. But he just had so many nice things to say about you. And I mean, it really speaks volumes to what you're doing beyond your position as a CEO. So you obviously are passionate about it.
I am, and maybe a bit about the website. It actually started when I was in the founder side. And at that time, I told you I was one of the first who got funding, and I was the first who won these different tech conferences. So many people had questions about who to go to, who are the investors. Sure. And I started repeating the same answers. And given my development skills, you know what? Why not create a blog at that time to showcase who are the people you should talk to and who are the people who can give you help, what are the accelerators that are happening. And it started at that time. But maybe I was a bit too honest. Then I was like saying, these VCs don't invest, right? These people actually just talk and lose your time. And people like that because, again, they didn't want to waste time with the wrong investors. Little by little, I started to adjust the content there. And when I joined the VC side, I decided to really make sure it reaches to the right people, everyone knows about it. And it became now one of the main directories that helps investors and startups understand everything about the ecosystem they need to know in Saudi Arabia.
That's amazing.
I adjusted the two honest part. I made it with, I mentioned they're less active funds. They were calling, they're saying, we're doing better, we're improving ourselves. I'm like, okay, fine, I think I'll have to adjust.
Okay, I'll adjust you the review. So what do you think are some of the biggest learning points that you have from your first startup?
I would say number one is managing cash flow. This is something I keep repeating to all tech startups that I know. You'll receive funding, hopefully, and how you manage that funding is very crucial. What's the points or the areas that you should invest more money in, and making sure you have a return on investment on that time, because you need to reach to a milestone that's very clear that helps build up your company for the next funding round. Many startups, especially if they're first time building a company, they think, oh no, I have to build the best tech. We have to push more about the features we want to create and not put much amount to the marketing and sales development, where where the money really comes into. Building the best tech that no one knows about can ruin a company. And that's one of the things I really focus on. Number two would be finding the right partners. Again, my partner was great at that time, but again, on the ending of the company, there were lots of problems about the focus of what we should do and the elements. Vesting was nothing people talked about with us in it. The hours that you have to dedicate, the focus and everything. So I keep telling people you have to put the right agreements between you and your partner. You hope for the best, but you have to plan for the worst. And that's something you have to put in writing in agreements. And I think the third thing is building the right team. It is the hardest, until now, the hardest part of startups here is talents. Finding the right talent and retaining them.
Yeah.
So creating the right culture, creating the right incentives, and especially if you're competing with the governments and other corporations who can pay way more better salaries. If you really want the right people, you have to build the right culture.
Yeah, and sometimes as an entrepreneur, you're not the best manager, right?
So hiring a good HR is a good idea also.
Pardon?
Hiring a good HR is also a good investment, let's say.
Yeah. So regarding partners, how do most of the tech startups find their partners? Is it through these type of events and industry things, or do they just meet them themselves?
I've noticed really that many founders end up finding their co-founders in organizations that they worked in. So you notice both of them worked in N. And Elm is one of these great software development companies backed by PIF, and they end up exiting and doing their own company because they know each other. They know the quality of work, the quality of dedication, so they can vet that person during their working time with them.
Yeah.
Some of them in other organizations that I've seen were the exits of Kareem. That created a boost of great startups. Similar to the PayPal mafia, we had a Kareem mafia, and there was an article written about them, all the people who exited Kareem and created their own tech startups and now are successful startups who raised investment rounds. And those are, again, another place. The events are good, but you really have to filter them well because, again, they might be exciting for that time of the event, but you have to make sure you're both aligned on the long term of the company.
Through our work with Success Saudi, we get a lot of questions from particularly foreigners who have been in Saudi most of their life, or they've been working here for many years, and they want to start a business, not necessarily a full-fledged tech startup, but one lady wanted to start a social media agency and, just smaller type businesses. And I've asked this question before in prior interviews, and people will say the government entities are, the websites are very helpful as far as the licensing. It's very clear, but sometimes you just want to ask someone and talk to someone about your specific situation and make sure you're getting the right license, you're going about it the right way. Can you give any advice to somebody in a situation like that on who they could speak to?
Sure thing. But again, when I usually give this advice, I feel it gets outdated very quickly because MISA, with their all changes of regulations of what they do, it's always better to go to Ministry of Investment and understand currently what's the right license and how we should operate, because again, their process is always adjustable to what regulation the requirements are.
Sorry, from your experience, is it helpful to go in person? Or
Yes.
yeah, okay.
Emailing them or
Yeah.
is not the best. I think they have an office and they do have a place where you can go in and ask for information. But when it comes to the tech startups, especially ones, maybe I'll speak on two different parts. The ones that are abroad and thinking of coming into Saudi, there is a whole track that's dedicated for them to get the entrepreneurship license.
Yes.
That requires investment from some of the approved VC lists that they have. Once you have received the investment from them, even if it's a small, I think they have a limit requirement, 100 or 200K dollars. If you get that investment, you are able to go through that track that gives you an entrepreneurship license in Saudi. It's entrepreneurial license means you own the whole entity in Saudi. You don't need any different partners. You can have a regulated commercial registration. That's the one I deal with most companies. We've been invested into MENA, and they come in.
Is it difficult to get the entrepreneurship license? I mean,
if you have a person who, if you have one of the VCs who are in that regulated list, no, you have a very smooth process. Smooth process, not short process. It's a smooth process. It might take some time just to get through the banking and everything, but again, you end up getting the license that you need. The ones who live in Saudi and decide to do a business, I think I might not be the best expert into what's the right way of doing it. But again, MISA is the organization you have to go to as a foreigner here in Saudi. They're the ones that gets you the license that's needed.
And where are the best places to go for general advice or support? I'll use my own example. So we have a media company. We issue DQ Living magazine and do some marketing activities. And as we now have a podcast and different activities that we're adding to our CR, sometimes I just want to talk it through with somebody to make sure I'm doing the right thing. Where can entrepreneurs in Saudi go for general advice and support?
The main entity that is trying to be that core place for helping entrepreneurs is Munshaat. It's the small and medium enterprise authority, and they are the main ones that want to be an authority helping entrepreneurs running their business. So they have actually a whole dedicated core service of mentorship, free mentorship. Come in, tell us what you need, and we'll try to guide you to the right licensing, the right way of building the company, and you can just register a time with them. I don't know if they do it in English though. I know they have Arabic-speaking mentors, but they might have updated their services to offer that. But besides that, there are some specialized organizations that could help you. So if you want to build something in fintech, there is Saudi fintech that also have open office hours. So come in, ask your questions. We'll help you build your own. Know which licenses you need to get to build your own company. There are ones that have to do with the art scene and creative scenes. I don't know their names, but I know they exist to help entrepreneurs understand the right route to take. When it comes to media, I think even you talk to the other people, you still have to meet with the Ministry of Communication and get the right media to get the right answer from them.
Yes, and like we were saying, it is evolving. So, yeah. Okay. So now, as a CEO of this private equity and venture capital firm, what are you personally, well, or on behalf of your organization, looking for in the organizations that you invest in? Anything unique or different that you look for?
So when we look at companies that we want to invest in, there are several elements we try to focus on. For me, what excites me are the things that are new. I see many these crowdfunding platforms or marketplaces that don't excite me. I know there might be money there and it can be a revenue generating thing, but I like things that are different, that have a twist, that do things that other people are afraid of trying. And these are the ones we look to invest in. So uniqueness in their business model is one. Number two is on the founders themselves. I like, I believe there is a unique personality combinations of founders that when I see it, I feel I'm more comfortable investing. So the person who's more on the hustler mentality, who says, I'm not going to wait for the funding to do something. I'll get things done. And as people deal with me, I'll adapt and change and try to grow. But I'm not just going to wait and put leg on leg and just wait for the funding. So the hustler part, the inspire part, the person who can create a good culture, who focuses on building the right bringing in the right people, and the person who has a good network. Network is key in building startups in Saudi. It's network with the right people in government, network with the right founders, network with the right people in the industry that you're trying to operate is key. Why? Because this is how businesses are run in Saudi. Having that edge of calling someone or giving that access to the meeting that you need to land helps you accelerate your startup much faster.
Isn't that what you help with?
Of course, we add that value, but I can talk to the maybe high network individuals who can open businesses, opportunities to them. I am connected with the right government people. But again, you don't want to see someone who's only depending on you to do that. You'd have their own, maybe not everything, but it comes with the hustler attitude. They know people, they call people just to get things done.
So the startups you usually invest in probably have more than one founder, right?
Yes, definitely.
So what do you, oh, they definitely do.
Yes.
Okay, so what do you look for?
Complementary
between it?
skills.
Yeah.
So someone who's good at the business side, sales, operation, someone who's good at the tech side, and hopefully a third one that's good also with the financial side. Not always the case. Some of the financial side comes with hiring someone just as an employee. They have vesting shares later on. But the main thing is the place where the money comes from, sales and marketing, and the other place, that the tech, because we invest only in technology companies.
And do you notice anything about the synergies between the founders that, I don't know, helps influence your decisions to invest?
No, not really. Yeah, sometimes you all see someone who's the rising star in them. He's the one who's out there. His face is everywhere associated with the CEO. And the CTO is the geeky person who understands everything about tech, doesn't want to be in the scene, just want to get things done. That's the right person to want that. Because you want someone who's doing the hard work. Yes.
Do you have any advice about doing business with government entities here in Saudi?
Yes. When you're dealing with government, although it's exciting to see the different proposals and what they want to do, you have to always manage your cash flows, because payments are, even whatever is written on the contracts, won't be met in the expectation that you have. So you have to add a couple of months over that timeline, just so that you can manage your cash flows well, because you will be spending a lot to get these whatever proposals done. But then to get that payment to be finished and pay your suppliers is a big problem. So you have to make sure you have other projects on the side that can keep that funding going until you get that big payment at the end. That's a very key thing. And anyone who works, especially for the tech startups that we deal with, we give them that advice. Make sure, if you're going with B2G, which is dealing with your government, make sure you manage your cash flow expectation well, because it can kill you.
Yes. Okay. Anything else besides managing the cash flow when it comes to doing business with government?
In many government entities, the turnover is high. So relying at one person that's giving you all the great feedback and advice and having you all the right connection, you can't depend on them fully. Just make sure that you have several people in that organization that you can talk to whenever that person decides to leave to another organization.
So what are some practical tips that somebody can put into place regarding that? Like,
Getting to know them a bit socially, and
Yeah.
how that expand towards their other colleagues, and regular invites to dinners, having them
make sure other people know you.
Yeah, exactly. You can't depend on one person only knowing you, and that's your only contact in that organization.
Yeah, that's great advice. Yeah, that would have been helpful. What cultural factors should entrepreneurs consider when starting or scaling their startup here in Saudi?
That's a good question. I'd say one of the things we look at when we invest into a company that's coming into Saudi to expand their business is the capability of creating a network and hiring the right people. I think I mentioned that as a founder. It's even more core when it's a foreigner coming here, because they expect things to work the same way they've worked in Dubai or in Egypt or wherever they're operating from. And the logic, it's a bit different here. The way the incentives that you have to provide, even if you're you're paying very well, it's not the key thing people might be looking for. The culture is right, the people, the progression, the career path, and really who else is joining the organization, the feedback, your reputation. It's all core things when you're trying to build the right team. And many of them fail to do that. They come in with great numbers in their home country, coming in Saudi, they're not able to replicate the same engine that they have created in their country. And that's just the core of understanding the pace or the right network elements that play into a role when you're building that. Yes, the government has the right requirements there, but maybe it's not only that gets you the license you need. You have to talk to whoever to get it through, and the hustler mentality to make sure to push, to ask, to get to know the right people to help you with that process.
So the foreign companies that have come here, or the foreign startup companies who have come here and been successful, what have they done differently?
Of course, once you're saying it, I have someone in mind that was an excellent candidate for for that. She went from Dubai to Saudi. She relocated completely. She knew how to play the network card very well. She talked to the right people, got the right projects, got the right people, hired the right team. These were the elements that helped that company grow very well in Saudi, and they actually completely relocated their HQ into Saudi.
No, look at it.
And got incentives from a program called NTDP, which is the National Transformation Development Program. It's a program specialized for tech startups to get so many support from the government dedicated for tech startups, whether it was subsidizing development salaries, subsidizing R&D, subsidizing contracts, meaning if you want to deal with an organization that's a bit scared about the cost it will cost to use your solution, they will subsidize that cost. If you're a co-founder, if you're an employee in another organization and thinking of going into entrepreneurship, but worried about the salary, they'll give you a salary. Yes, they have 16 initiatives, all amazing ones that are dedicated for tech startups to build their business. So she went to the one that's called Relocate, saying, come here into Saudi, we'll subsidize your rent for your office and some salaries of the Saudi developers, and they have a whole and premium residency. It was a great initiative. She was able to get access from due to the connections she had.
Wow. Maybe you can refer us
Oh,
for an interview later. Well, as you know from your own experience, I know as well as every other entrepreneur that entrepreneurship really is a roller coaster. And when do you encourage entrepreneurs to stay the course, and how do you know when it's time to quit?
I think because I went through that, I can speak clearly about. Again, it's not. There's no science behind it. There's no formula. Okay, this is the time, but it's a sense that you have and the morale of the company. It's very hard once things start to go into decline to understand how to really push it forward, and if the effort you're putting in will help pivot in the right way. Because you hear all of many of the tech startups here actually that talk about their entrepreneurial journey, they always reach to that stage where, okay, we don't have enough to pay the salaries, we might be closing, but we pushed ourselves through and we're able to get that exponential growth and the funding that we need to grow. And it's hard for me to speak about individually how each one should address this issue, but I think it's about you yourself and your energy to really be able to overcome the obstacles that you have, and if it's worth the effort that you're going to try to put into it. Because you might be able to do something else that might work better.
Right.
So it really comes towards the individuality and talking well with your co-founders to make sure you're both aligned in doing that push.
Yeah, that's good advice. So while you're here, I wanted to take this time to tell you about one of the initiatives that we're doing and to see if you have any specific advice for us, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So as you know a little bit, we have a magazine here in the DQ called DQ Living. It's a print and digital magazine. We've been publishing almost 8 years now. And very niche, focused on the diplomatic corps community, connecting the embassies and the residents, businesses, and government organizations here. And of course, we have social media as well. And over the years, we've just noticed that many of our advertisers and partners in hospitality, like the restaurants and hotels, they'll advertise with us and then they'll say, you know, we're willing to give your community a discount or access to this special event that we're doing. And we're like, whoa, okay, that's nice. And, you know, we kept hearing that. And then also from the community side, there were people who kind of wanted more from DQ Living, like, what are these other events that I can get involved in? And so we came up with the idea to make a Club DQ.
Okay.
Another reason is also trying to diversify the revenue outside of just advertising. So we created something called Club DQ. It's a digital membership club. And when we first launched it, it was complimentary for anybody living in the DQ or working at one of the embassies. And we just went to like our partner restaurants, cafes, salons, and asked if they'd be willing to give a discount to cardholders. And most of them were, so we, you know, did an agreement with them. And we came up with this digital card that's basically just stored on your Google Wallet or Apple Wallet. And yeah, so we just kind of trialed it like that. If in order to get the membership, people would have to apply and we kind of verified that they were living here, and we did that. It worked well. I think we had like over 1,000 members come on initially while we were feeling things out. And then we felt we had a good process, so we did a paid version. And I think we had like 100 paid members convert to our paid annual plan. And like I said, you get the discounts, and then we're also doing like networking events because a lot of our members, they're new here, or, you know, they're working for an organization and they want to meet more people in the community. But, you know, there's a lot going on, but you kind of want something where you can meet more like-minded people, maybe, you know, something more niche. So we're trying to cater to that with our events. We've also found interest from some of the residential compounds and some of the companies that employ a lot of expats or a lot of like people coming from different cities to work in Riyadh who want to network more. They've expressed interest in the card. And so we've kind of created this other product, and I don't know what to do.
Well, I admire again first to initiate that idea. I think it plays well complementary to the magazine that you have. I think again I can put several hats. The venture capital hat might be asking about market size and monetization and conversion and the money and how it works. And
Yeah.
the other side where I'll put my, again, I like to always put the other hat of entrepreneurship, of a founder, of saying, you know what, these are elements you can play on that can actually help your business. So I would say, again, who are your typical comparables are people like Wala Plus. They're focused on employee loyalty, and they create the same cards and so on. They have a big reach. So I would say their focus was B2B. So going to maybe to the embassies and saying, okay, it's not by individuality, like let's
Right.
have the like the embassy themselves pay for all the employees they have or all the, and get them to pay a one-time fee that covers an annual subscription for their employees or the compounds or businesses or organization, because it's much easier than dealing with B2C ones that decide 1 year, yes, we'll renew, or and you notice the numbers are a bit low. So if you really focus on revenue generating part, those would really help and will help sustain the income that you would expect from them.
Right.
The other part is also looking at the expat journey itself. So you're dealing with expats, which is a segment that many organizations hope to deal with, because there is a lot that come into Saudi. If you look at the population in Saudi, it's a huge portion. And many of the people who come go to the same challenges in really finding the right bank or finding the right insurance. And there are several things they need to open, they have to do. And banks are willing to pay for those leads. So if you have organization, you do the right partnerships that helps the expats journey once they join in, that, you know what, you need the school, you need the medical, these are the organizations we've dealt with and we have access to it, and these are revenue generating ones. So it's not just here are a directory of the people you can open with. We'll do that process for you, or we have an agreement with them that gives you special benefits for you to run it. So these are elements that helps add different revenues into your company. And of course, the social aspect of it, creating not only a loyalty card where actually people can talk and discuss and becomes a community building thing. So they can create clubs, they can create, and people have to pay premium subscription just to do these different organizations or concerts and everything. And it becomes elements where other revenues can come. So these are the elements as an entrepreneur. I would say, why don't you explore these? It might be beneficial to help your company grow.
Yeah, that's great advice. And thinking about the expat journey is something we do need to think more about. And I found also in my other businesses, like I am a partner in a gift business. And so we started off selling cultural gifts to individuals mostly here in the diplomatic quarter. And we had an e-commerce store. We did that for about a year, and then got one order from the Ministry of Tourism and realized we just made as much money from that one order that we did this whole year selling to individuals. So that it totally makes sense to go to the organizations. I'm just, like, for me, okay, I knew that we had to diversify our revenue and, start looking, because DQ Living is very niche. I mean, it's limited. And so, like, what else can we do? But now I'm seeing, like, why these tech startups get funding or get mentorship, because it's like, okay, now I have this, well, what do I do with it? Now I need, like, major sales and marketing and, like, to really grow this, because it's becoming a business, like, in and of itself.
Yes.
And then, I have some people telling me, well, you should focus on that because there's actually potential there. But yeah, I don't know.
I think it sometimes gets overwhelming, especially as a founder, that the possibilities are big. I can do and I can do and I can do. But again, which ones that will return the right investment, return on investment is the key things maybe to prioritize in the beginning, and also the efforts that you need to make, hiring the right team. These are the elements that help you build the right company in the beginning. A tech one.
Yeah.
Tech is usually the advices I can help with.
Yeah. And do you think that we need to explore some of these or would you advise exploring some of these resources within the tech sector here? Because, I mean, this is pretty new to me. I'm, when I studied in school, we didn't have like these VC firms and it was something foreign to me. And coming here to Saudi, it was just like I started up just how I knew to start up like any traditional business. So I've been learning about all of these, these new ways to start and grow a business and like the support network. And so do you think it's something worth exploring for this idea?
Definitely, when you look at the landscape of Saudi Arabia and all the sectors that are growing, tech is definitely one of the ones that have boomed in the past couple of years. A lot of government focus is there. Many ministries have different initiatives focused on those. All of them have their own innovation centers that are helping these tech startups. So there's a lot of focus there and a lot of support. It's good to align with what they're trying to do with your company so that you can gain some support there. I would say also, if you want to learn more about entrepreneurship, there are actually several online courses made by organizations here. MESC School has an entrepreneurship school focused on entrepreneurship. NEOM has a master class about entrepreneurship by Iman Shakur.
Oh, yeah?
Yes, and there is also, who else did? I think KAUST, the university, has also one dedicated for entrepreneurship. They'll talk about the local experience of building the companies and the tech startups so that you have some alignment of what you need as skill sets or things you need to know about the lingo of talking to tech scene, because you have to understand what's term sheets and anti-dilutions and vesting. These are things that when you talk to the BCs or the angel investors, you'll have to know what it means so that you are well equipped coming into any negotiation table.
So what are some marketing strategies that startups can use on a budget?
That's a very important question to have and hard to answer. Just because I guess startups have different business models that they operate with. Are you B2C? Are you B2B? Do you talk to businesses? Do you talk to customers? Are you talking to government? These are all different ways of reaching the right people. And what you use as hustler skills, I'll say, is also very different. With B2C, I noticed many of them trying to become a brand ambassador about the subject they're operating in. So it helps bringing lots of indirect sales or indirect marketing towards what they're trying to build. And people know about their solution or their product by her speaking about it and being more known as a subject expert in that.
And they do this by participating in events on LinkedIn,
Twitter, podcasts, YouTube, and they bring that and become their own influencer towards building that content. It plays also in the B2B part because, again, organizations have different employees there, and if they are luckily one of the ones hearing about what you're talking about, they decide, hey, you know what? Come in, let's discuss. Ones that I noticed about the B2B ones, I don't think many people utilize these solutions where geofencing, and you can do it on advertisement. So you can say, okay, I'm trying to get those people as a client. I don't need everyone to know about myself. I need those people to know. So I can say, anyone who's watching on YouTube or Instagram in that specific spot, I want them to reach and get my advertisement on it.
You mean geographical area?
Yes.
Okay.
So you're saying, okay, I want, let's give an example for you. People in DQ get to know about my solution or my organization. I want to know people in the Ministry of Culture. Like, you can really narrow anyone who's watching on their mobile and on their computers to get that advertisement. So you keep pushing remarketing until it hits with someone. And that's how you try to land. So they say, oh, you're famous. We see you everywhere. Yes, over there, yes. Those are hustler attitudes of really trying to do with a minimal budget to get the right clients.
Oh, great tips. Thank you. Do you, well, I know you prioritize your health and wellness following you on Instagram, which I commend you for. Do you see more entrepreneurs these days prioritizing their health, and what does that mean?
I think it depends on the ages of the entrepreneurs.
Okay.
The ones in, I say, the early ones, the young generation, they do. They balance between life and work, which I commend them for. And the ones I think in the later stages of in growth do also, but they realize it very late, so they're trying to catch up on their wellness. The one in the middles, I think, are the ones still struggling. They feel the more effort they put in their product, in their solution, their time in the company will gain more revenue, and they start slacking on their wellness and health. And I think everyone on their own timeline will realize where, you know what, I should have done this, and they get
Right.
into that aspect. So I don't see it as much in that age segment, but eventually everyone gets to see that because it is very important.
Do you see it impacting the startups that you work with?
Burnout happens to many founders. That's why we try to focus on co-founders. So you always, any company we invest in has to have co-founders. Sole co-founders usually never work. You have to have 2 or 3 co-founders because everyone can carry the weight of running that startup for a bit whenever that person needs to recharge and re-energize again. So you need that balance between them and understanding because it is a hard job. You have people relying on you to pay their salaries, to feed their kids, and it's high growth, high pace, high risk industry. So you really have to bring that all in and know how to manage that stress and that pace in the right way.
Do you have any tips on how to manage it in the right way? To avoid burnout?
I think it's really having that conversation with your co-founders. That's the real tip, is really knowing, okay, this time I haven't taken a break for the past 2-3 years. I need to give myself that break, and you have to align with everyone else to know what they can do and manage until you're back and really disconnect. Because I've been part of that also. I've not always been the health freak, but it's were times where I used to go on vacations and I have a laptop with me and I need to continue working. Still happens sometimes, but I need to do that just because I couldn't delegate in the right way. I couldn't put the right breaks in place so that I can really disconnect.
Is there any preventative measures that you would advise entrepreneurs taking when they're working so hard to focus on their business and build their startup?
Creating clear boundaries, I guess. And that's boundaries with the employees, with the communication, with the co-founders, with the investors, with the board member. These would help people understand what you prioritize. And again, not showcase also, I don't care about the business. It's very clear from your dedication of the work that you do.
Yes.
But I think even investors realize that there are times that you need to have a break, and putting those boundaries and clearing, having clear communication about it is important.
Do you have 2 phones?
No, I have one.
You have 1 phone.
Yes.
How do you
I just don't answer.
you keep it with you? You just don't look at it?
I think I created a understanding to anyone who's trying to reach to me through WhatsApp that I'm not the person who will answer right away. I might even look at the message, I won't answer right away. When I am at the working zone, I will answer. And I don't have to apologize. It's not meant for you to reach me right away. I will answer when I am in the work mood that I can answer.
And that works for you?
For now, yes.
Okay. Some rapid fire questions, Hussein. First one, best purchase under 500 SAR.
Funny enough, I thought of a card game called Exploding Kittens. It was one of the best purchases I did because it helped me and my kids have entertainment hours for long entertainment hours.
Really? I've seen that one, but I haven't
It's a
played it.
lovely family game. It keeps us well entertained.
Exploding Kittens?
Yes.
So more than just a couple of times, you've continued to play it?
We I think utilize that card game so much, and it was so entertaining, and we sometimes make a dare on it. You want to do that? You want me? Okay, let's see who wins, and we'll get that done. And it becomes like
Oh, that's fun. That's a
thing
good
we can-
one. Favorite book?
The hard things, the hard things about hard things. It really dedicates things about entrepreneurs and talking about things that no one talks about. Firing people. When do you quit on an idea that you have? These are the things no one really talks about as much because it's not nice to talk about it. It hurts, and that book is dedicated for it. So I'd say to any founder, this is the book you should read.
Okay. Good tip. Favorite exercise?
Anyone who follows me knows I'm a big paddle fan. I think it fit with my networking passion also. So
Yeah?
I just gather different people, let's play, and I continue to have different communities to play with, and it really excites me. And it's my de-stressor element. It really helps me get away from work and really have fun.
Awesome. Place to go for inspiration?
I thought about it. I think it will sound lame. It's really coffee shops for me. This is where but it has to be really good coffee. I'm very picky. So I have certain places that I like to go to. They have the right elements where coffee is amazing, music is good, not that much like people talking. These are the places where I can really go into the zone and think well.
Travel hack?
So I have 3 kids. One of them is 3 years old, and we got this luggage, carry-on luggage that opens as a chair, and it becomes much easier just to navigate through traveling, having her sit there and take her through security and everything with it.
Oh, you got one of
Oh,
those? I've seen that.
it's really helped. I don't need to carry anything else. And it's fun for her. It keeps her entertained. It's a good travel hack.
Do you remember the name of it?
No, but I can.
I'll let you write also. Okay. Hussein, what are you most looking forward to in the coming year?
I'd say sealing a deal, but sealing a deal on the personal side next year, hopefully.
Sealing a deal?
Yes.
Okay.
On the personal side, meaning I'm planning to get married, so that's my plan for next year, yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
that is very exciting. Wow. And where can people follow you and engage with your content and resources?
I'd say Twitter is where I usually showcase many of the events, conferences I go to. I showcase all the startups that are presenting and giving summaries about what they do.
Okay.
LinkedIn, where I share more about the website and the updates, the new people in the ecosystem. So whenever there's new VCs, new accelerators, that's where they'll see the latest ones that are new in Saudi. And for the very special ones, Instagram for a very selective few.
Got it. Is there anything else you want to share or add before we close?
I'd say anyone who really wants to know more about the entrepreneurship ecosystem, it's HusseinAttar.com is where they can find accelerators, VCs, angel investors, podcasts, and newsletters that they can learn everything about the entrepreneurship ecosystem in Saudi.
You're putting all the information there.
Yes.
Okay, keeping it updated.
Every couple of months, I update one page and
Great.
try to keep that relevant for what's happening.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. I learned so much, and I'm sure everyone else will too.
Thank you for having me here. Thank you.
Thank you to Spaces in the Diplomatic Quarter in Riyadh for hosting our interview today. If you're finding value from Success Saudi interviews, please like and share it with your friends to help us spread our message.